The night was silent. The forest stood like a giant shadow, dark and endless. The tall trees covered the sky, and only a few silver lines of moonlight touched the ground. A human walked alone on the narrow path. His boots pressed the dry leaves, making soft cracks under his feet. He carried only a small light which flickered every time the wind touched it. He was tired, but he could not stop. Something inside him told him to keep moving. The forest was too quiet, almost unnatural. Not even birds called in the night. It felt as if the whole place was holding its breath. Then it happened. A cry cut through the silence. It was high-pitched, sharp and filled with fear. "Human! Help my mom!" The man stopped. His heart jumped. He looked around quickly, his light shaking in his hand. The voice was not normal. It was not human. It was strange, half like a child, half like something else. The sound echoed between the trees, almost pulling him deeper into the forest. He whispered to himself, "Did I hear that right? Did it say, human?" Again, the cry came. Louder this time. "Please, human, help my mom." The man felt his throat go dry. Fear spread through his body. He had been in many dangerous places before, but this was different. This was not a human call for help. This was something alien. His first thought was to turn back. Maybe it was a trap. Maybe hunters or bandits used tricks to lure strangers. But then he remembered the sound. It was not fake. There was pain, fear, and desperation in that voice. It was the cry of a child who believed he could help. He took a slow breath and gripped his light tighter. "I should not go," he thought. But what if it is real? The forest seemed to push him forward. The trees stood tall like silent guards, and the ground was wet and soft under his boots. He stepped carefully, each sound loud in the heavy silence. His eyes searched the shadows, but he saw nothing. Then, from behind a thick bush, two glowing shapes appeared. Eyes. Large, round eyes shining faint green in the dark. The man froze. His heart beat hard against his chest. From the shadows stepped a small figure. It was no taller than a human child, but its body was thinner, almost fragile. Its skin shimmered faintly, like silver touched by moonlight. Its hands shook as it lifted them, palms open, showing no weapon. "Human," it cried again, voice trembling. "Please, you must help my mom. Hunters trapped her. She will die." The man stared, his mouth dry. He had never seen anything like it. The creature looked both strange and innocent. Its large eyes shone with tears. Its body trembled not from attack but from fear. Still, his mind warned him. It could be a trick. He had heard stories of aliens who used disguises, who played with human minds. What if this child was leading him into danger, but the sound of the voice, the pain in it, was real? He could feel it. No machine could create that. No hunter could fake that much fear. The man lowered his light slightly but did not put it away. "Why me?" he asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. The alien child stepped closer, its thin legs shaking. "Because you are human. They fear humans. They say humans are weak, but I know you are strong here." The child touched its chest. Strong in the heart. The man felt something inside him stir. He had not been called strong in a long time. His life had been full of battles, but never with such words. Still, the forest was full of danger. He looked around, his ears sharp for any sound. If hunters were nearby, they could be watching him right now. His instincts told him to leave, but his heart told him to stay. The child's voice broke again. "Please, if you don't come, she will die. She is all I have." The man shut his eyes for a second. The cry of the alien echoed in his mind. He saw no weapon, no lie, only fear. He could not turn away. He opened his eyes and nodded once. "Show me." The child's face lit with hope. Its glowing eyes widened and it turned quickly, pointing deeper into the forest. "This way. Hurry, before the hunters return. The man followed, his steps fast but careful. His light swung from side to side, catching brief glimpses of broken branches, strange marks on the trees, and faint glowing wires in the dirt. Each step pulled him further into the unknown. Behind them, the forest grew even darker, as if the shadows themselves were closing in. Somewhere far away, a low growl echoed. The night was no longer silent. The hunt had begun. The forest seemed alive with whispers as the man followed the strange child. Every step he took made him more uneasy. The ground was soft, wet with night mist, and roots twisted like snakes under his boots. His small light flickered, showing shadows that danced and stretched, always moving in the corner of his eyes. Ahead, the alien child moved quickly, but its body shook with fear. Its small feet made almost no sound, like it was born to walk in silence. The man noticed the child kept looking back, making sure he was still there. The child's eyes glowed faintly green, guiding the way like two small lanterns. In the dark, "Forest?" Those eyes looked both haunting and innocent. The man's thoughts turned heavy. What am I doing? Following a creature I've never seen before. Into a place I don't know. He gripped his light harder, his other hand brushing the knife on his belt. If this was a trap, he needed to be ready. Finally, the child slowed down. It turned its face to him, the glow of its eyes trembling with tears. "You came," it whispered. "I thought you would run." The man frowned. "Who are you? And why do you speak my language?" His voice was sharp, demanding answers. The child lowered its head. Its thin shoulders shook. "I don't know many words. My mom taught me. She said humans were dangerous, but also kind. She told me if something bad happens, maybe a human will listen." The man's chest tightened. A creature from another world, raised with stories about his kind. And now, in this deep forest, that child looked at him as if he were the last hope. He did not answer right away. The silence between them stretched, filled only by the distant sound of wind through trees. Finally, he asked, "Where is she? Where is your mother?" The child lifted a trembling hand and pointed forward. "Not far, but the hunters, they are close too. They don't want humans to see what they do." The word hunters echoed in the man's mind. It made his skin crawl. What kind of hunters trapped creatures like this, and why would they fear humans? As they walked, the man studied the alien child more closely. Its skin shimmered faintly like silver dust under the moon. Its arms were long, thin, but its fingers were strong, gripping branches as it moved. Around its neck hung a small piece of metal, strange and old, glowing with the same green as its eyes. The man asked, "What's your name?" The child blinked, confused. "Name? Yes, a word people call you." The child thought for a moment, then touched the glowing piece around its neck. "She calls me Luma." "Luma," the man repeated softly. The name felt strange on his tongue, but it carried warmth. Luma gave a small, weak smile. For the first time, the fear in its face lessened, but the smile vanished quickly when a sharp sound broke the air. A snapping branch, heavy footsteps, too close. The man stopped, pulling Luma back behind a tree. He turned off his light, leaving only the glow of the child's eyes. The forest became pitch black, every shadow hiding danger. The footsteps grew louder. Voices followed. Harsh, deep, not human. They spoke in a language the man didn't understand, words that rolled like grinding stones. But one thing was clear. The hunters were near. Luma's small hand grabbed the man's arm tightly. "They cannot see us," it whispered, barely, breathing. "If they see you, they will kill you." The man nodded silently. He crouched low, listening. The hunters moved past, their armor clinking, their strange weapons glowing faint red. For a moment, one of them stopped, turning its helmet toward the trees. The man held his breath, his hand on the knife. Luma trembled beside him, eyes wide. With terror, after what felt like forever, the hunters moved on. their footsteps fading into the distance. Only then did Luma breathe again. "They smell blood," the child whispered. "They know my mother is weak." The man's jaw tightened. He could not imagine what kind of cruelty these hunters enjoyed. But he knew one thing. If he turned back now, that child would be alone in this nightmare. "Show me the way," he said firmly. Luma nodded quickly and moved again, faster this time. The path grew stranger the deeper they went. The trees twisted, unnaturally as if bent by great force. Rocks were burned, blackened by some kind of weapon. Here and there the man saw bones, small animals, crushed in strange traps of metal wire. His stomach turned. These were not simple hunters, these were butchers. Finally Luma stopped. Its glowing eyes stared ahead, filled with fear and hope at the same time. "She's there," it whispered. The man looked past the trees. In the faint light, he saw something huge, a figure caught in glowing wires that wrapped around her like chains. The air shimmered with heat from the snare. The creature struggled weakly, her massive body shaking. Her skin glowed the same silver as the child's, but darker, older. Luma's voice cracked. "Mom!" The man's breath caught in his chest. This was no ordinary alien. This was a giant, a mother with strength enough to tear down trees, yet now trapped, beaten, bleeding. And somewhere, hidden in the shadows, the hunters were waiting. The human stood still, his eyes fixed on the sight before him. The alien mother hung in the trap like a wounded giant, her massive arms bound by glowing wires. The energy snare pulsed red and blue, sending sparks across her body. Each time the current flowed, her muscles shook violently and a low, painful growl rolled from her throat. The ground around her was torn. Trees snapped like twigs where she had struggled, but no matter how strong she was, the wires only grew tighter each time she moved. The more she fought, the deeper they cut. Beside him, Luma clutched his arm, tears in those glowing eyes. "She cannot break free," the child whispered. "The more she fights, the more it hurts her." The man swallowed hard. He had never seen technology like this. The snare was not made by human hands. The wires shimmered like liquid fire, shifting shape whenever the mother tried to pull away. Strange metal spikes glowed in the ground, feeding the trap energy from some hidden power source. He whispered mostly to himself. "What kind of hunters build this?" Luma shook their head quickly. "They are not hunters of food. They are hunters of pain. They catch the strong to watch them suffer. They sell what they take. Blood, bones, spirit." The man felt his stomach twist. Cruelty. That was what this was. Not survival, not sport, just cruelty. The alien mother's eyes opened slowly. They glowed faintly, the same silver green as her child's, but filled with exhaustion. When she saw Luma, a weak rumble left her chest. Her lips moved, forming words in her own tongue, too soft for the man to understand. "She says she is sorry," Luma whispered, trembling. "She says she told me to run, but I did not." The man's heart tightened. The child had chosen to risk everything, to trust a stranger, just to save the one who gave them life. He knew that feeling. Long ago he had risked himself for family too. The mother's body shook again as the trap released another violent surge. Sparks flew, lighting the trees with harsh flashes. The smell of burned flesh spread in the air. Luma cried out and tried to run forward, but the man grabbed the child's shoulder. "Wait," he hissed. His eyes scanned the darkness. The forest was too quiet, too easy. Then he saw it. High in the trees, faint red lights blinked. Not fireflies, eyes, dozens of them, watching. The hunters were here. A cold shiver ran down his back. They were not rushing in to kill. No, they were waiting to see what he would do. It was a game. The man crouched lower, pulling Luma close. "Listen," he whispered. "If I go to her, they may attack. If we leave, she dies. Do you understand?" Luma's glowing eyes widened, full of fear but also defiance. We cannot leave her. If she dies, I have nothing. The man studied the trap again. The glowing wires twisted like snakes around the mother's limbs and chest. Each spike in the way. Ground hummed with power. If he could break one, maybe the whole system would fall. But touching the wires meant death. The energy was strong enough to cut through bone. He felt the knife at his belt. A simple human blade against alien technology. Hopeless, but hopeless was not the same as impossible. He took a breath. Luma, I will try. But if they come, you run. Do not stop, do not look back. The child shook their head fiercely. No, I stay with you. Humans are strong in heart, so am I. The man almost smiled at the courage in that small voice. Almost. He moved forward slowly, every muscle tight, eyes watching the shadows above. The hunters made no sound, but their presence pressed heavy against him. He reached the edge of the snare. The air buzzed, hot and sharp, raising the hairs on his arms. Sparks snapped when he reached too close. The mother growled weakly, warning him away, but he shook his head. Quiet, he whispered. I'm not here to hurt you. His hand gripped the knife tighter. He studied the nearest spike in the ground. Small glowing runes covered its surface, pulsing with each surge of energy. The man crouched low, pushing the blade under the dirt, trying to find where the spike rooted itself. The ground burned his skin when the blade touched the base. Energy shot through the knife, nearly ripping it from his hand. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself to hold on. The metal screamed, sparks flying. Behind him, Luma cried out, "Careful!" The man pressed harder, digging into the soil, and then, snap. The spike cracked, sparks exploding upward. The nearest wire flickered, losing strength. The alien mother gasped, her chest rising with a little more freedom, but the victory was short. A sound filled the air, low guttural laughter. From the trees above, the red eyes blinked closer. The hunters were coming down. The man spun around, knife ready, chest heaving. Luma clung to his leg, trembling but refusing to let go. The shadows shifted, revealing figures in armor, their faces hidden by dark helmets. Weapons glowed in their hands, humming with deadly power. One of them stepped forward, voice deep and cruel. So, the human thinks he can break our cage. The others laughed, a sound colder than the night. The man stood tall, sweat on his brow, knife burning in his hand. His heart pounded, but he did not step back. Behind him, the mother groaned, the wires sparking weaker than before. In front of him, the hunters spread out, their weapons raised. And in that moment, the human realized. This was not only a fight to free a mother. This was a fight to prove what humans were made of. The forest no longer hid them. The hunters stepped out of the shadows, their armor glinting faintly red in the dark. Each one was tall, broad, and covered in plates of black metal that seemed alive, pulsing with strange light. Their helmets were shaped like skulls of beasts, and from their weapons came a low hum, the sound of energy waiting to kill. The human tightened his grip on the knife. It felt small and weak compared to the glowing blades and rifles aimed at him. Still he lifted it ready. His body trembled, but not with fear alone, with anger. One hunter stepped forward larger than the others. His voice was deep, mocking. A human, alone, weak, yet he dares to touch our prize. Another laughed, the sound harsh like metal grinding. Look at him, a Stone Age ape holding a toy blade. He thinks he can free her? The others joined in cruel laughter, their red eyes shining through the helmets. Luma clung to the man's leg, trembling but glaring at the hunters with defiance. The child shouted in a small but sharp voice, "He is not weak, he is strong in heart, stronger than all of you." The hunters' laughter grew louder, echoing through the trees. One pointed at the child. "The little one speaks. Maybe we should take it too. The mother will break faster when she sees her cub bleed." The man stepped in front of Luma, knife raised higher. His eyes narrowed, his voice low but firm. "You will not touch the child." The leader tilted his head. Brave, words for a dying man. He raised his hand and 2 hunters moved closer, weapons glowing. The human's heart pounded. He could not fight them all. But maybe he didn't need to. His eyes flicked to the trap. The glowing wires pulsed from the spikes, still humming, with power. He had broken one already. If he could break more, the mother might free herself. And if she did, maybe they stood a chance. He stepped back slowly, closer to the spikes, pretending fear. The hunters laughed again, thinking he was retreating. "Run, little human," one sneered. "Run and die tired." But instead of running, the man crouched low, slamming his knife into another spike. The ground hissed, sparks exploding as energy burst upward. The hunters cursed, their laughter turning to rage. The wires flickered again, loosening around the mother's chest. The leader roared, "Stop him!" 2 hunters rushed forward, but the mother, even weak, snapped her arm against the loosening wires. The ground shook as her massive limbs struck the dirt, blocking their path. The hunters stumbled, surprised by her sudden strength. The human pulled his knife free, the blade smoking hot. His hand burned, but he ignored the pain. He turned quickly to Luma. "Find the next spike. Show me where it is." The child nodded and pointed to the far side of the clearing. The man sprinted, dodging as a blast of red energy struck a tree beside him, sending wood flying. The hunters opened fire. Bright beams tore through the night, burning the ground where he had been a second before. He rolled, dirt scraping his arms, then lunged at the spike. His knife hit, sparks flying again. The wires around the alien mother glowed weak, trembling as if about to break. She roared, a sound that shook the trees, her eyes blazing silver. The hunters hesitated. Even bound, she was terrifying. But their leader snarled, "She is still ours! Kill the human!" 3 hunters charged. The man spun, knife raised, but he knew he could not block their weapons. Then suddenly a small figure leapt in front of him. Luma. The child raised the glowing pendant around their neck. A flash of green light burst outward, striking the hunters' helmets. They staggered, blinded for a moment, their weapons firing wild into the trees. The man stared in shock. "Luma! What did you— No time!" the child shouted. "Finish! It break the last one." The man turned, spotting the final spike glowing brightest of all. He ran, every muscle screaming, as beams of red light scorched the air around him. One blast grazed his shoulder, burning his skin, but he did not stop. He threw himself at the spike, stabbing deep. The knife cracked, the blade nearly shattering, but the spike split in 2. Energy exploded in a blinding flash, knocking him to the ground. The forest shook. The wires around the mother burst apart, flying like broken chains. She fell forward onto her knees, gasping, her chest rising with heavy breaths. For the first time, she was free. The hunters froze, their laughter gone. The leader snarled, rage in his voice. "No, she is ours." The mother lifted her head slowly. Her silver eyes glowed brighter than fire, her body trembling but filled with fury. She pushed herself up, towering over the hunters. Her roar ripped through the forest, a sound of rage and freedom. The human crawled to his feet, his body aching. Luma ran to his side, clutching his arm. Both of them stared at the mother as her strength returned. The hunters raised their weapons again, but there was no laughter now. Only fear. The man whispered to Luma, "Stay behind me." But Luma shook their head, eyes burning. "No. We stay, together." In front of them, the alien mother took her first full step forward, shaking the ground, her massive arms stretching wide. The hunters had come to watch a human fail. Instead, they had freed a monster of their own making, and the fight had only just begun. The forest burned with light. Sparks from the broken snare still floated in the air like angry fireflies. The alien mother, now free, stood tall but weak, her chest heaving with heavy breaths. Her silver skin was scarred from the trap, but her eyes blazed with fury. The hunters closed in, weapons raised. Their leader shouted, voice like iron, "Take them all. Kill the human, break the child, and bind the mother again." The human's hand shook as he lifted his knife. It was small, dented and burned from the energy spike. Against their glowing, Rifles and cruel blades, it looked laughable. The hunters laughed too, their voices echoing in the night. But the man did not laugh. He stepped forward, putting himself between Luma and the hunters. Fear pressed down on him like a mountain. His heart pounded, his skin burned where the blast had grazed him. But deep inside, something else stirred. A voice. Old. Familiar. The voice of memory. He remembered his father's words from long ago. Courage is not the absence of fear, son. Courage is standing firm when fear tries to break you. His father had died a soldier, a man who fought even when defeat was certain. Now, standing in this alien forest, those words burned bright. The hunters charged. The man moved fast, not with strength, but with cleverness. He dived low as a blast of energy sliced the air where his head had been. Rolling through the dirt, he came up behind a fallen log. Another shot hit, splintering wood into sharp shards. Luma crouched behind him, clutching the glowing pendant. "They are too strong," the child whispered, fear breaking through. The man looked into those glowing eyes. "Listen to me, Luma. Humans may not be strong like them, but we fight with more than weapons. We fight with our minds." Luma blinked, confused, but listening. The man pointed to the ground where broken wires from the snare still sparked faintly. "Their own traps, their own power. We can use it against them." He leapt from behind the log, waving his arms to draw fire. Two hunters turned toward him, weapons ready. Instead of attacking, he ran straight toward the broken snare. Energy still snapped from the cracked spike, unstable and wild. "Come on, you monsters," he shouted. "Shoot me if you can." The hunters fired. At the last second, the man dropped flat. The beam struck the sparking wires. Energy screamed, bursting upward in a violent flash. The shockwave blasted both hunters backward, their armor cracking as they slammed into trees. The forest shook with the impact. Luma gasped, eyes wide. You tricked them." The man grinned, though blood ran from his lip. "That's what humans do best," the leader snarled, furious. "Enough games. Crush him." 3 more hunters spread out, circling. The mother tried to rise, but her legs trembled. Her strength was not yet returned. She roared, trying to shield her child, but the hunters pressed forward, confident again. The man's chest burned with exhaustion. He knew he could not win this fight by force. He needed more tricks. He grabbed a rock from the ground and hurled it at a hunter's helmet. The blow barely staggered the giant, but it was enough to distract him. In that moment, the man dashed forward, sliding under the hunter's arm and slamming his knife into the back of the creature's leg joint. Sparks flew as the blade hit a weak point. The hunter howled, falling to one knee. The man pulled the knife free and kicked hard, toppling the armored body into another. The hunters cursed in their alien tongue. The leader barked orders, but the man was already moving, fast and unpredictable. He did not fight like a soldier with armor or a warrior with power. He fought like a human, dirty, desperate, clever, throwing dirt into eyes, ducking into shadows, using the forest itself as his ally. Every small victory bought them more time. Every second kept Luma safe. But time was running out. The hunters regrouped, closing in tighter. The man's breath came hard, his arms heavy. His knife dripped black liquid from the wound he had made, but his body screamed with pain. Luma suddenly stepped forward, pendant glowing brighter than before. "I can help. The light, it hurts them." The man grabbed the child's shoulder. "Not yet. If you use it too much, they will take you. Save it. Wait for the right moment." Luma nodded, though fear shook their voice. "Then when?" The man looked at the mother. She was forcing herself to stand taller, her massive body trembling. Her eyes met his. For a moment, no words were needed. She understood what he was doing. "Soon," he whispered. The hunters roared as they prepared for a final charge. Their leader raised a massive blade, its red glow filling the clearing. "Now." "The ape dies." The man raised his broken knife, his body weak but his eyes unyielding. He shouted, his voice carrying through the night. "You think humans are weak? Then come and see why we survive when others fall. The ground shook as the hunters rushed forward, the air filled with light and fire, and in that storm, one human stood tall, ready to face death with courage burning brighter than fear. The clearing glowed red with fire and sparks. The hunters closed in from every side, their weapons raised, their heavy boots pounding the ground like war drums. The human stood in the middle, his knife cracked, his body trembling, but his eyes steady. Beside him, Luma held the glowing pendant, and behind them, the alien mother struggled to rise. The leader pointed his blade at the human. You fight with tricks and dirt, but tricks end. Dirt dies, now you end. The hunters roared as they rushed forward. The man braced himself, but his body was failing. His shoulder burned from the wound, his lungs begged for air, and his legs shook with exhaustion. He knew he could not hold much longer. Still, he refused to fall. At the last moment, a deafening roar split the air. The alien mother. Her voice thundered through the trees, shaking the ground beneath their feet. She tore against the last wires still clinging to her body. Sparks exploded as the energy fought to hold her, but fury gave her strength. With a final, violent pull, the wires snapped one by one. The mother staggered forward, her massive frame rising fully for the first time. Silver skin shimmered in the moonlight, muscles coiled with power. Her eyes blazed like fire. The hunters hesitated. For the first time, their cruel laughter was gone. She's free, one whispered. The leader snarled. Then break her again. But the mother moved faster than they expected. With one sweep of her colossal arm, she struck two hunters aside. Their armored bodies flew through the air, crashing into the trees with a sound like thunder. The ground shook with every step she took. The man pulled Luma back as the mother advanced. The hunters fired, beams of red light burning the air, striking her chest and shoulders. She roared but did not fall. Instead, she pushed through the fire, her hands grabbing one hunter and crushing his weapon like dry wood. She hurled him into another, knocking both to the dirt. The human stared in awe. She was not just a mother. She was a force of nature. But even as she fought, her body showed weakness. The wounds from the snare still burned. Every blast that hit her made her stumble, and the hunters knew it. The man realized she could not do it alone. If they wanted to survive, if they wanted freedom, all of them had to fight together. He turned to Luma. Now, use the light. The child nodded, gripping the pendant tight. Green light burst out, bright and pure. It washed across the clearing, striking the hunters. They screamed, their helmets cracking under the force. The light blinded them, their red eyes fading in pain. The mother roared again, using the moment to strike harder. Her fists slammed into the blinded hunters, breaking their armor. The ground cracked under her blows. The man joined too, darting into the chaos. He could not match their strength, but he used his speed, his cleverness. He slashed at weak points in the hunter's armor, stabbed at exposed joints, and used fallen weapons to block blasts. Every move bought more time for the mother to recover, more hope for survival. The leader saw his army falter. Rage burned in his voice. Enough! Kill them all! He charged, blade glowing brighter than ever. His strikes cut deep into the earth, tearing holes in the ground. The mother met him head-on, their clash shaking the forest like an earthquake. Sparks flew as her claws struck his blade. The human and Luma watched, hearts pounding. The battle of giants filled the night. The leader was fast, each strike sharp and deadly, but the mother's fury was greater. She fought not only for herself but for her child. She fought for freedom. Still, the leader pushed her back. His blade cut into her shoulder, making her cry out. She stumbled, nearly falling. No, Luma screamed. Without thinking, the child ran forward, holding up the pendant. The green light exploded again, striking the leader in the face. He roared, blinded, his strikes wild. The man rushed in, his broken knife raised. He plunged it into the glowing wires still clinging to the mother's leg, cutting the last pieces of the snare. Sparks erupted as the final chains shattered. And, in that instant, the alien mother was truly free. Her roar split the night. She rose taller, her strength returned, her fury unstoppable. She grabbed the leader's blade in one massive hand, snapping it like glass. With her other hand, she struck him, sending his armored body flying across the clearing. He crashed into the dirt, unmoving. Silence followed. The hunters froze, their leader fallen. The mother stood tall, chest heaving, her eyes glowing with fire. The last of the chains hung broken at her feet. The man staggered back, exhausted, his body ready to collapse. But when he looked at her, he felt a spark of pride. He had done it, not alone, never alone. But he had given her the chance to rise. Luma ran to his mother, wrapping small arms around her leg. Tears glowed in the child's eyes. "You're free. You're free." The mother bent low, her massive hand resting gently on the child's back. Her voice was low, filled with both strength and pain. Then her eyes turned to the human. For a long moment they simply stared at each other. No words were needed. He had broken her chains. And now, the hunters would learn what it meant to face not just an alien mother, but a human with courage. The clearing was silent. Smoke rose from the shattered spikes. Sparks faded from the broken wires. The hunters who had once laughed now stood frozen, their red eyes dim with fear. Their leader lay broken in the dirt, his weapon snapped, his armor crushed by the mother's fury. The alien mother stood tall, her massive chest rising with heavy breaths. Scars from the snare burned across her silver skin, but her eyes glowed like fire. Beside her clung Luma, small arms wrapped tight around her leg, and a few steps away the human stood with nothing but a broken knife in his hand, his body trembling, his face pale with exhaustion. For a long moment no one moved. Then the man stepped forward. His voice was rough but steady. "Go," he said, to the hunters. "Leave this forest. If you come back, you won't find chains, you'll find me." The hunters hissed, their voices sharp, but none dared move closer. They had seen too much. They had seen a human stand against them. They had seen their leader fall. Fear spread among them, stronger than any weapon. One by one they stepped back. Then slowly they faded into the trees, vanishing into the shadows where they had first appeared. The forest grew quiet again, but not with the silence of fear. This time, with the silence of victory. The man let out a long breath. His legs nearly gave way, but he forced himself to stay upright. Luma ran to him, eyes glowing with tears. "You did it. You saved her. You saved us both." The child hugged him tightly, small arms pressing against his burned side. The pain made him wince, but he placed a hand on the child's shoulder. "No, Luma. We saved her. Together." The mother lowered herself slowly, her enormous frame bending until her face was close to his. Her glowing eyes studied him in silence. For a moment he feared she might strike. After all, he was only human, the stranger who had walked into her suffering. But instead she spoke. Her voice was deep, powerful, but soft with gratitude. "Human, you broke the chains. You faced the hunters. You protected my child." Her massive hand reached down, her claws curling, but she did not strike. Instead, she touched her chest and then bowed her head. "We owe you a life debt. You are not weak. You are strong in heart." The word struck him harder than any weapon could. His throat tightened, his eyes stung. For years he had fought, bled, survived. But no one had called him strong for the heart, only for the blade. Now, an alien mother, a being far greater than him, gave him that honor. He nodded once, unable to speak. The forest seemed to breathe again. Wind whispered through the trees. The night no longer felt heavy. Luma tugged on his arm. "Come with us. You don't have to walk alone anymore. My mom, my people, they will see you. They will know a human saved us." The man looked at the child, then at the mother, then at the dark forest where the hunters had fled. He thought of Earth, of his people, of the countless times humans had been called weak, primitive, easy prey. And yet here, tonight, One human had stood against hunters from another world and lived. A faint smile touched his lips. Maybe it's time others learned what humans can do. The mother rose again, lifting Luma into her arms. She turned to the man, her voice firm. "Walk with us. The hunters will not forget you, nor will we." He nodded. Together, they left the broken clearing, the ground scarred with battle, the air heavy with the memory of chains. As they walked, Luma spoke in a soft, hopeful voice. "You know what I think, human?" He glanced down. "What's that?" The child smiled, eyes glowing bright. "I think humans are special. Not because you are the strongest, not because you are the fastest, but because when everyone else runs, you stay, you fight, you never give up." The man's chest tightened. He looked up at the stars shining through the treetops. For the first time in years, he felt proud to be human. Behind them, the hunters retreated into the shadows of the galaxy. Ahead of them lay an uncertain road, one filled with danger, but also hope. And as the man walked beside the alien mother and her child, he knew something had changed. Tonight, a story had begun, a story that would spread, carried by whispers across worlds, that in the dark, when the strong hunt the weak, when the chains of cruelty bind the helpless, one species refuses to bow. Humans, not the strongest, not the fastest, but the ones who fight with heart. And heart in the end can break any chain.